before me and Lailee get into this conversation, we have a very important, prestigious guest who's very prolific in the YouTube world. Y'all may have heard of DJ Holloway. How can people find you?
Just search up DJ Holloway, no spaces, and yeah.
That's it on YouTube.
On YouTube.
Okay, you got some good content.
A lot.
What's your latest LP? What's that song the one Lailee's been singing?
Give Me Grace is the song.
Give Me Grace. Mm-hmm. It's the story. What is the story of a guy that goes to prison?
First starts with Pull It For Real. He's walking. Some guys jump him. He takes them out a few years later. He ends up in jail.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah.
It's just kind of it's like living out on these streets. It's kind of like yeah. I think it's a great song. Yeah. Lailee can sing the whole thing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And
I think I got it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I like that line. I didn't mean to kill that guy, but I meant it.
A lot of people have been talking about that line.
Yeah, it's a good line. It's a solid line. Come on. So tell me, so me and Lailee we're gonna do an episode. So you've been on NSR before.
Yes.
Many times. People are very familiar with you. I think what do you think is something that you would want people to know about living at SWO, being mine and little son, being in our family, growing up at SWO, being able to go to camp, you go to camp every day when it's summertime. And during the school year, we've talked about where you go to school on other episodes, but having weekend things, retreats and stuff. What's something that you think would be interesting for people to know about your life as a snowbird guy that maybe they wouldn't think about?
I'm good at Gaga Ball.
You're good at Gaga Ball. Solid
really
information.
Good to get on.
Do people ever ask you how you got so good at Gaga Ball?
Not really.
Are they impressed though?
Really impressed.
Yeah. Are you impressed?
No, I know I can do it. Yeah, I know I can do it.
I feel like I never see you in the Gaga Ball pit.
Oh, today I took out 3 people.
Took out 3 people.
Nice.
Moses does not need confidence because he has plenty.
Endless supply.
I don't get it.
It means you got plenty. What do you ever have people ask you questions like, man, what's it like living here? Or
yeah. Like, today somebody asked me that, and I said, it's pretty fun. I get to come here a lot, see all my friends, play a lot of Gaga Ball, meet a lot of new campers. Yeah, just like stuff like that.
And on the wrecks, what's your favorite wreck as a camp kid?
Paintball.
Yeah. And you like the pool.
In the pool. Yeah.
What are your thoughts on going down the Nantahala River?
Cold, and I don't do it a lot.
Not your main thing.
Not my main thing.
Too cold.
Yes.
I see you got a new fade. That's a good looking haircut.
Yes.
What about, is there, other than the Nantahala, is there a favorite off-campus wreck?
I would say laser tag.
That's what I thought. So laser tag.
Laser tag is the main thing. Yeah.
That makes sense. Laser tag off-site, which is North Campus, and paintball main campus, because you enjoy, like, what do you want to be when you grow up?
A YouTuber.
All right.
Yep. But
a cop.
Yeah, there you go.
I wonder how many kids would answer that question the exact same way.
Yeah,
a YouTuber.
Probably too many.
Probably a huge majority. Yeah, you've talked a lot about that you want to be a cop. We went and I introduced you to sheriff and visited the sheriff's office and the jail and everything.
A lot,
about. Yeah. So that's what I was getting at, is that's probably why you like paintball and laser tag. You like that kind of action.
Yes.
And we shoot real guns.
A side hustle.
Yeah, YouTube be the side hustle.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
YouTube will be the side hustle.
Okay. You got anything else you want to say to the folks?
Go subscribe to DJ Holloway.
Go subscribe. To DJ. Subscribe.
Well, you almost have 500 subscribers.
Yeah, but I lost a subscriber today.
Oh.
Yep. But okay. Thanks for having me on.
You're welcome. Thank you.
He said my time is up.
Welcome to No Sanity Required from the ministry of Snowbird Wilderness Outfitters, a podcast about the Bible, culture, and stories from around the globe.
JB, last week and this week, 2 weeks in a row, I've had so many people say how much they love your input on the podcast. So thank y'all, everybody's listening. We love getting feedback. And I don't know, before we get into this, I've got Lailee with me. I got my daughter Lailee with me today, and I don't know how many people say to me every week, JB's right off the screen, so are Chris and Sam. What's the feedback you get on we have these diagnostics that, we get X thousands of downloads a week, but I have 100 conversations a week of people coming here talking about NSR. Right here where the studio is, if you walk behind the cameras, and there's a door over here, and that's where we store like volleyballs, basketballs. So there was a church youth group, and these kids were playing. They were like just bumping. You stand in a circle and like bump and set, and they're all standing there. And it was like the youth pastor, a couple dads, and the ball went over the fence behind the super coop into the cornfield. Well, you can't get it. Like if you're gonna go to that cornfield, you have to go a quarter mile to the gate, a quarter mile to the road, a mile around, 2 miles around to the farm road. It's like you're not gonna go get that ball.
Yeah.
So I was like, it'll be fine. They'll throw it back over when next time they're in the field plowing or whatever. And so I was like, come on, we'll go. And it's like 2 8th grade girls. And I said, come on, we'll go get another volleyball. They're like, what? Because I just happened to be walking by. We walked through here and they went, oh my goodness, is this where NSR? And like these 2 8th grade girls are like NSR listeners. And I was like, yeah. And I thought afterwards I should have got a picture with them or something. They would have loved that, we went and got them a volleyball, and then they were happy. Yeah, so the Lord's blessing it, and lots of people are listening, and we're grateful for that. One of the things that I asked Lailee to come on. I'm always hesitant about – not hesitant. I don't bring my kids and family on a ton because it's not like the Holloway Family Podcast, and it's been a while since you guys got to hear from DJ Holloway, a.k.a. Mad Dog Holloway, a.k.a. Moses Dorsey Holloway, known most affectionately as Mo. As you see, he's not lacking self-confidence. I mean, he thinks have you noticed the most recent thing is he thinks all girls like him.
Oh, yeah. He was flirting it up with my campers week 1, and I said, no, sir. I will clock you in a second. And he's like, because, he's also just very, personable and a great personality. So it's like, I think to him sometimes it's like, oh, they're just my friends or whatever. Yeah. But he's also not naive. So I know he knows what he's doing.
Yeah, he does, because he'll say some things where you're like, oh, yeah, that's a public school talking.
Yep.
He learned some stuff in the hallways.
Yep.
Yeah, what I want to do today is I want to talk about, I talk to so many, I don't know if you have this experience. Do you talk to pastors' kids at camp much? Have you had some conversations?
I've had a couple campers that will talk to me about it.
Yeah.
But not just on the regular of coming up to me random.
Yeah. Just in the flow of camp. I would say almost every group that comes, there's a pastor's kid in the group, because it's either the youth pastor's kid or a senior pastor's kid or an associate pastor. I have that conversation a lot. So I thought it'd be cool to talk a little bit about your experience as a pastor's daughter. And then also it's unique because it's layered, because you're a pastor's daughter, but then you grew up a Snowbird Kid. You're what I would call first wave Snowbird Kid. I mean, you and your older brother and sister, you were the 3 Snowbird Kids. That was it. Now when people show up here, there's 50.
Yeah, I'd have a hard time keeping up.
Yeah, keeping up with them.
It's hard.
And then, and then everyone sort of ends up in smaller groups of friend groups based on their kids' ages and stuff. But when you were growing up, it was first it was just the 3 of y'all. The Potters were here for a season, and they had a daughter that was between you and Kilby's age, closer to Kilby's age though.
Yeah.
The Joneses moved here in 2013, so you were 8 years old.
8, yeah.
And then it was you and Emma became best friends. So just a unique environment to grow up in, to go from being one of the 3 only kids here to now you
Yeah.
2 years ago you were like the oldest of all the Snowbird kids as you were finishing high school.
Mm-hmm.
So that perspective might be fun.
Yeah.
And then let's just have some fun with it, like some funny stories, some memorable moments, some family traditions that are connected to camp. Like I thought it'd be cool to talk about spillway, cliff jumping on the lake.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'll tell one story to start the conversation about Lailee. Lailee is like probably one of the most fearless. You're probably you and Tucker are both very fearless, and Kilby is too.
Mm-hmm.
But you're fearless in the adventure sense, like heights and
Yeah.
And I think all 3 of y'all were. Like
I feel like Kilby is too, and Tuck. Yeah. Honestly.
But not as much as you. Like I've watched Lailee jump off stuff that when I was a 20-year-old dude, I'd have been like, okay, let's go. And she's like, whoop, no hesitation. So you love cliff jumping.
Yes.
It's literally like.
I love doing that. Now, yeah, like the highest one I did, I probably won't do it again because it just hurts. But it's still fun. It's fun. I just had to do the one at the spillway because I've seen so many people do it. I think it's about 65 feet.
The upper spillway? Mm-hmm. Oh, that's high. I've got that video on my phone.
Yeah. But that one is so fun because you fall for so long, but no matter how good you are at bracing yourself, it just hurts.
It rattles every bone in your body. Yeah, and it's like 65 feet. And me and Mama were last night, right at bedtime. I'd come in and lights were out. It was probably 1 a.m. And she's sitting there with her phone on watching people doing death dives.
Yes.
So I was like, oh, you watching death dives? And I'd jump in. I just got out of the shower and I'd jump into bed and I like, for 20 minutes.
It's crazy.
We're watching people, and the dude jumped 109 feet, spiraled like.
Have you seen where they fold?
And then they go in like this.
That is wild.
So my favorite Lailee cliff jumping story. Lailee was about when I talked trash to those guys. What were you? Probably 11.
Yeah, I think so.
11 or 12, something like that. No more than 12.
Yeah.
And maybe 10, somewhere in that range.
10 or 11.
Yeah, probably 10 or 11. So we go up to this. There's a place on Nanahala Lake. We don't do this as a camp wreck. There's some things that we do that are not camp wrecks, but they're camp connected, and we'll take sometimes friends and guests out. So we get in the boat. We go out to this cliff. This cliff, depending on how full the lake is, because the lake will be drawn down after summer, and that cliff, when the lake's full, that cliff's maybe 30 feet. And then as they start drawing down, it could get to 50 feet, So, and I think that at that time it was about 40 feet.
Yeah.
So we pull up. Here's my 10, 11-year-old little girl. And Lailee is my spirit animal. Like she just is. She's like, every kid's different. Laylee's the one that's probably most like me. As people say, you're like me. Mm-hmm. And so, like, I think we're on the same wavelength in the way we think. And so, we pull up, and Lailee, little 10, 11-year-old Lailee, just wants to go jump off the cliff. And so we get there, and there's a boat, and there's about 6 dudes that are all probably like college guys, or college age, and they're trying to get the nerve to jump. And it's sketchy because it's not like a dock. I mean, you're in the woods, and you got to kind of clear out of the trees and then jump over some rocks, and then you go down and hit. And these guys were like trying to get the nerve up. And I knew what Lailee was thinking. I knew already. She wants to get up there and jump before them just to make them look like dummies. And so we pull up. Before I can get the boat slowed down, she dives and starts swimming. Her little teeny self. And she swims over there and she starts climbing. There's a little rope and you got to go up this rock, and she's climbing. And then from the boat, so I back the boat up. And then when you're watching a person climb up, they disappear. You kind of go back into the woods, and then you pop back out up on the cliff. Yeah. And so Lailee, and then I see her little bitty head just over the edge like this, and all these dudes are standing right on the edge. They're like, oh gosh. I don't know. And I can see her little bitty head sticking up. And I said, hey boys, if y'all get out of the way, my little girl show y'all how to do this. And they're like, huh? They're just confused. Uh-huh. And most people, when they go off that cliff the first time anyway, they'll get right to the edge and they'll just easy step like they're gonna make it a shorter jump. Like I just slowly step off. These dudes barely give her any room, and she just comes running, dead sprint from about 20 yards back, and just launches. I mean, as high as she can jump, launches off the side of that cliff like woo. Hits the water, and I talked so much trash to those guys, and every one of those dudes jumped in the next 60 seconds. They're like, I can't do this. So that's one of my. Someone had asked, like, tell some stories when folks heard we were going to do this. I was like, that's my Lailee, my favorite Lailee summary story of what it's like to grow up in Snowbird. You're literally like fearless. So I like that one. Any other, like, can you think of any other like adventure memories of stuff we've done, either like a one-off or something we do consistently when you're growing up that you really like?
I'm trying to think. Like, Mama did so many things with us that was like just such good memories. But like, even just, I think a little bit of it is just like a natural desire to do stuff like that. But also growing up, like, I mean, you know, I remember. Well, I don't remember, but y'all made me do the 3-man swing when I was like 4 maybe. So I think so much of that stuff is like pushed me, you know, and gave me that desire and stuff. But I'm trying to think of stuff with Mama that we've done. Like just always, I mean, it's not always illegal, but so many little things where it's like, this is borderline, you know.
Like jumping off bridges and major highways.
Yeah, jumping off bridges. Like I remember.
There's a bridge in a place.
There's a bridge in a place.
On a main highway in a place.
Yep, that you're not supposed to jump off of.
And it has the sign with the state ordinance.
Right before it. And there's like a little pull off. And I can remember like growing up doing that. Like just pulling off. She'd be like, okay, you guys ready? You got to jump out. And so she'd pull off and we all jump out of the car, run, make sure no cars are coming, jump off, climb out, and drive away. And I remember there was one time when, I don't know what kind of cop it was.
It was a deputy.
I think it's, deputy. He pulls up, and it was like me, Tucker, I think Emma, and we all get under the bridge. And Mama's like, get under the bridge. And I'm like, no, it's going to make it look worse. And she's like, just stay. So then she goes up. But there's been a lot of stuff like that is just good memories.
Yeah. What about when you were a little kid? Like when you think about, because people, I'm sure you get the question a lot, what's it like growing up at Snowbird? What's it like being a Snowbird kid? Like in stages of life, when you think about like elementary school age Lailee, what was your favorite thing about camp?
I literally would give anything to go back to one of those days. Like, I feel like a regular day was just going to camp, and I remember me and Gabe Clark would just get on our bikes and just ride. And then one of our favorite things was to just work our way up the creek, looking for crawdads and stuff. And I've told this story, I think, to some of my friends. But I remember one time we made like this gigantic crawdad like village, and we had like different swimming holes for like the different sizes. Like really big ones would be in this hole, really small ones. And we probably had like, I mean, it was a lot of crawdads because we walked the whole creek and we would bring them back and put them in their little pools. And we were so proud of it. And so then we left them, and then we go back the next day and every single one of them is dead because we didn't leave any running water. And they have to have running water. So there was no oxygen. And we were like, well, it was like a mass
crawdad genocide.
It
was World War on the crawdads.
It's not good. But yeah, stuff like that. And then like making forts in the woods all the time. Like, I don't know. I feel like a lot of the stuff that I see the camp kids doing now, it's like a lot more involved with like the staff and like campers, like so much more of the campers. But I feel like growing up, we were just like kind of doing literally whatever. I hung out with the campers and stuff for sure. But I feel like it was a lot just on our own, just, you know.
Yeah, it seems like this wave of camp kids, they want to be at camp, doing camp things with camp kids, with staff. And y'all would, sometimes y'all would just come back for meals.
Mm-hmm.
The one fort I remember you had up kind of on that mountain at Slow Fast.
Yep.
You had like a whole fort built.
Yep. Yeah.
You just stay gone, like Tom Sawyer, Huck Finn stuff. Just roaming the woods.
So fun. Yeah.
And when you were in elementary school, you were homeschooled.
Yep.
So you would come to camp during the day a lot.
A lot.
Travel with me a ton.
Yeah, that was really fun. They'd always finish school early, which I always would brag about to all my public school friends. But yeah, then like just even I remember me and Kilby would just do really stupid stuff to the campers, like to freak them out and stuff with bugs.
Eating stuff.
Yeah.
Or
Like
eat
stuff
things.
like that where I think with you it's like that's so you. Like just to do it to get a reaction. Like I remember we would set up a little literally like it was our version of like a lemonade stand. But it was with worms. And we would get campers to pay us to eat worms.
Eat night crawlers.
Terrible. It was so bad.
What do you remember like making money doing that?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
That's awesome.
Yep.
That's really funny.
Yeah, stuff like that where I'm like, that is just doesn't feel real. It feels like I don't know, a whole nother life.
World.
Yeah.
There is like two eras of SWO. Your childhood era is it's interesting. In so many ways, it's still the exact same, like the core of who we are and kind of the mindset. But just the organization has grown so much bigger. It's like a different era. So like the kids that are growing up now, they are not having an experience. They're not having the same experience you had. I was talking to Amanda Potter, who's my admin, but Amanda works remote from Dallas, I think now. They've bounced around. They were in Orlando, then they're in Richmond, now they're in Dallas, but they worked here at SWO for about 8 years. Well, she hasn't been back here in 10 years almost, 9 years. She came back for Kilby's wedding, 2019, but she didn't go to camp.
Yeah,
They stayed in a hotel, went off-site. The wedding was off-site. So she's not been here in 9 years, and sometimes this happens a lot where we'll be in our weekly phone call. I was talking to her yesterday, and she'll say, well, it is summer camp, and she'll say something, and I'll realize, oh, no, it's not like that anymore. It has changed. Like, things are different.
Yeah.
You got to grow up in the golden era in some ways. And in some ways, it's way better now.
Yeah.
You know, like, there's just, it's different experiences. Okay. All right. We're gonna stop and take a question from JB. The question was, when you were growing up, and now your second year working on summer staff, did you always want to do that?
Yeah, I think for me, like I think getting into 7th, 8th grade, and then like 9th and 10th, I loved like hanging out with Element girls and like loved being a part of that. I could never like fully do it because of sports, but like I just loved being, doing the stuff they did. And I think I always had the desire to work, and I always kind of saw myself doing it. Whereas like with, I think I went through a phase in like, middle school brat phase, like 7th, maybe 6th, 7th grade. I think, like, I remember talking to Kilby about this. I feel like at some point, most camp kids, whatever you want to call them, like, kind of go through, like, they don't want people to know. Like, they'll do anything for you not to know that, oh, my parents work here, I grew up here, whatever. And I don't know why that is. I think it's just a phase where it's like you just want to be.
You're trying to find your identity.
Yeah. I think trying to find a balance of, like, not being arrogant and boastful about it, but then also just being like, yeah, like, that's, part of my life. That's who the Lord's made me and stuff. So I think, like, in 7th grade, I struggled with that of, like, not wanting people to know. And also, that was a time where I wasn't, like, truly pursuing the Lord daily, so that makes sense. But I think once I really started to find the balance of, like, that's not maybe something I'm going to lead with in conversation, but, like, if it comes up, like, yeah, I'll talk about it. I think that kind of season in life, starting to like really also get to an age where I can actually have relationships with the staff, and like obviously different seasons of life, but like genuinely hang out, have conversation more than just like, oh, let me do the poopy pole 12 times, and that's like our relationship. But like actually hanging out with them outside of camp and stuff, I think that's when I really developed the desire to work and was like, yeah, I definitely want to do it as soon as I can. So yeah.
One of the most proud I've ever been of you. So you homeschooled through 8th grade. You shifted to public school for all of high school, primarily for athletics. I'm proud of you that you're the all-time scoring leader in Murphy High School soccer. But that's as awesome as that is, sports accomplishments. And I would like to talk a little bit about, because you had a very successful high school sports career. I want to touch on that. That's a segment that I want to talk about because I have this conversation with parents all the time. Yesterday, I'm at camp. I have an hour-long conversation with a dad who's a leader from a church and the youth pastor, because their church they're struggling in youth ministry because the parents are all consumed with weekend travel ball and club soccer and travel baseball, and like, where's the balance? I want to talk a little bit about that. That's one of the things. Only a few things I really want to get into, but that's one of them.
Yeah.
So, and I want to talk about the point where you decided, I don't want to pursue collegiate athletics, because that was a cool moment at the end of your freshman year, kind of going into your sophomore year, that I think changed the dynamic of how, for me, it took all the pressure off to just enjoy your high school sports. It was so. Do you remember what I would say to you after your games? I would say, I love watching you play.
I love watching you play ball.
Yeah. So if it's volleyball, I would just always say, I love watching you play volleyball.
Yes.
I love watching you play basketball. I love coming here. I love watching you play soccer.
Yeah.
Because it was like, I just loved being in the moment of those sports.
Yeah.
And so I want to talk about that balance. But something that I think is, I don't know how to say this. I said it makes me proud of you, but that I'm thankful for. And I think growing up, this gets instilled in the home, but I also think it's a product of growing up at SWO, because one of our core values is that we're hardworking. Describe for the good listeners what your job was the summer after your sophomore year at Snowbird. It involved a golf cart. Was that after your freshman year or sophomore year?
Sophomore.
So the summer between your sophomore and junior year, you worked at camp
for like, I think 6th to 9th grade in the summers. And then 10th grade, after my sophomore year, that summer I cleaned the porta-potties every day. And honestly, I think people think that would be terrible. But it really
Yes, they do think that would be terrible. Everyone thinks it's terrible.
But it really was honestly a great job, because I would have the golf cart. I only had to do it, I think, once a day, and I could do it whenever. So I would just do it before breakfast when it was cool outside. It wasn't hot and muggy, so and I would just get the golf cart, get my clean stuff, go. And I didn't have to get the stuff out of the porta potty. I just had to wipe everything down, sweep it out, just toilet paper, whatever. But I did that for a whole summer, just once a day, and it would maybe take 45 minutes to an hour. And
it was 16 of them, and you wiped them all down, picked up trash.
Yeah, there was only one time where it was something really, really gross. But
the point is, that was so normal to you, but that is not normal to most kids. Not many kids would want to do that. There's kids that would.
Yeah.
And I just would challenge parents to raise your kids to be tough, make them do hard things, whether that's jumping off cliffs or cleaning porta potties. You might not have that same opportunity, but I think those are the types of things that form a different mindset in you, don't you think?
Yes.
The fact that you would sit here and say, it wasn't that bad. Yeah, but that's because it wasn't that bad to you.
Yeah.
And I would challenge parents to supportingly push your kids to do things that are uncomfortable, that are out of the box. Nothing wrong with getting a job at Starbucks or Chick-fil-A. That's awesome. I'm not saying that's not a good thing. And maybe that is the out of the box thing, to just have them work. The point being, put a workload on them, and it's okay if some of it's hard, and it's okay if they whine or complain, which you never did about any of that. But I know that there are some parents that if you start to push and challenge your kids, because you have some siblings not going to say who will voice their complaints about many things.
Yeah.
The struggle is real, y'all, when it comes to raising kids. And so I think that's important. You decided, so your freshman year, you go into high school for the first time. You had played club soccer up until that point. We moved you to a high school the next town over. We live in Andrews, North Carolina. We moved you. Tuck's first year shifting to Raven Gap, where he transferred so that for football recruitment. You didn't go to Andrews. You went to Murphy High School because they had a women's soccer team. So we were kind of going in all directions that year. Like, talk a little bit about that transition from homeschool to public school. Let's talk a little bit about, because we have people that are homeschool, public school, and private school that listen. What was that experience like? And are there things you like better about homeschool, things you like better about going to public school?
Yeah, I think it was an easier transition than it could have been for sure, because I think sports helped just like break the ice of like meeting people, because summer workouts and stuff. Like the summer before my freshman year going into public school, like we were doing basketball stuff and some soccer stuff, so I got to meet some girls through that, so I kind of already had a little bit of a group of friends, so that was really helpful. But then like COVID and everything was my 9th grade year. And that was, like, growing up homeschooled and at camp. Like, I mean, obviously, we're a big movie family, like, stuff like that. But I didn't really have any skills with technology whatsoever. So I was honestly not doing great my freshman year, because it was like you could go 1 day or 2 days or not at all. And I was like, I'm not going to sit in the classroom for 8 hours in the same room with 6 people. So I went on to online, and like I think I barely passed 2 of my classes, because everything was on a Chromebook, and you or Mama didn't know either. So I was like, yeah, and I still don't really, but so like that was definitely a struggle, for sure. But if it wasn't for sports, I really think it would have been way harder, because I wouldn't have really met anyone. So I was very thankful for that. But like sophomore year on, school was fine because we were in person and stuff. But yeah, I think for sure, like being surrounded by people pretty much my whole life, being at camp, and we're also a family that's not like you just go into your rooms and do your own thing. So like pretty much my whole life just surrounded by people, and so I think the transition of like being in a social setting for pretty much the whole day, like that wasn't too hard, as smooth just being at camp all the time. And then also just like I think it provided so much perspective, seeing Kilby do it and seeing Tucker do it, and then me going after them, just like because I remember begging y'all to let me go to school like 7th grade. And I literally think about that all the time, and I'm so, so thankful that you said no, because I was not in the right place to go, and I think I would have really struggled. And so, like, even just being thankful for that and get into a place where I genuinely think I was ready and I had a foundation. And, like, I think I would have been fine if I wouldn't have gone to public school, but it really helped me, like, genuinely put things into action in my faith, and just, like, actually be submersed in a community that was not all believers and didn't have the same morals, all that stuff. So, I mean, I think anybody needs to do that, but
you went in. It was really crazy, the time, and this is just like, especially with sports, whether it's high school, college, professional, so many things have to line up with the right opportunities. Timing is everything. Hank, who was a professional race car driver, he'll say he became a high-level NASCAR driver because the timing was right. Like Tucker's recruiting. the timing of COVID is what pushed him to go to another school that turned into a crazy recruitment. Like otherwise he wouldn't have got recruited. You went to Murphy High School at a time when there was a group of girls, the basketball program there was hitting on all cylinders. The coach was phenomenal. Ray was a super gifted dude. And it was like 3 straight state championship runs. And you got in on the second and third one, like a team that was highly ranked. I mean, I think at one point out of all North Carolina schools, y'all were ranked second and you were first in 1A, but then all classifications as a 1A school, all classifications, y'all were ranked second out of all 400 and some high schools in the state. And I think you'd have beat that the one ranked team, which was a big 6A type high school in Charlotte or something. Like literally a once in a lifetime group of girls that kind of came together and you got to come in. I do think there was opportunity for success, but could have also derailed you because how'd you manage that coming into because you're doing that in basketball and then in soccer, your freshman year, you scored 33 goals. I think is what it was. Something crazy. It was like a record for a single season or something. How did you I've talked with this with Tuck about this and with Katie. How did you balance sports and school? Because it was highly you were in a program that in both sports, like really successful, a lot of success, notoriety. How did you balance that with just staying grounded?
Yeah. I mean,
what do you say to people that are like sports are kind of the thing that drives them?
I think growing up at Snowbird helped with that so much because whether you like it or not, there is, eyes on you pretty much at all times. So I think the pressure area of it, with sports and just those teams being so successful and balancing that, I really think the Lord equipped me very well growing up here with just genuinely not even thinking about it and not letting it affect your pride and confidence. And then also it was a lot of those girls were, freak athletes. So intimidating, but in a good way, in a humbling way. And coming into it, they set such good examples of just hard work, working your butt off and not taking, I think some of them were definitely believers, but not genuinely pursuing the Lord. So honestly, that was also a huge gift from the Lord, them not being super cocky, prideful, arrogant girls. It was just, they were all pretty down to earth and just hard workers. And so I think they also set a good example of we're a team, there's not one person carrying. And even if there is, because at times there definitely was, but I think just as a believer, always having the mindset of literally every single thing you have is a gift that can be taken away. And so just living with that mindset of this is, our school has 500 people in it. And to go on a run like that with sports, with 2 sports, it's crazy.
Yeah.
For the size of the school. So just always genuinely having reminders. However, I remember, just certain verses that I found that were very helpful to just really keep me humble and just perspective of, even I think Tucker helped a lot too, because he was, he plays football in college and all that. And so I think I'm also very thankful for following him, being after him, because I think that gave me humility also of okay, this is nothing crazy. Even if it's uncommon in our family, just seeing Tuck do it, I don't know, it just seemed not normal, but it didn't seem oh, this is the peak. This is the best thing that I could be doing. I think, I don't know if that makes sense.
It does. I think what you're saying is success on the sports field or on the court was normal enough, but it was all tempered and balanced with. But that's not who you are. That's not your identity.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you saw Tuck have an extremely successful career, but it never became his identity.
Mm-hmm.
And we worked to try to keep y'all grounded. Your parents were both
Yeah.
collegiate athletes. Both your granddads were, but
Mm-hmm.
none like people that know your mom would never know
Yeah.
if somebody didn't tell them that she was an elite Division I athlete.
Yeah.
She's in the Hall of Fame at a Division
Mm-hmm.
I university. You know,
Yeah.
so I think there's that there's that balance of, hey, let's use these gifts for the Lord. Let's have a good time with it, but this is not what defines me.
Yeah. And I think like that just also, like, you know, after a great game or after a goal that we reached, like we would talk about it and celebrate it, but then I mean, that's pretty much it. Like it was never like brought home every day of like, oh, this is our only conversation. This is like, you know, I had teammates where that's all their parents talked about was the amount of 3-pointers they got or whatever, or, you know, the goals that they got. And so like just seeing the effect of that on those girls, I was very thankful that like we had sports and then we left it on the field, we left it at school. Like it was always good to celebrate and like encourage and affirm, but it wasn't everything and it wasn't all conversation was about.
That's good. I'm grateful for that. So that, and I, like when I'm talking to those guys yesterday, I'm sitting there thinking, I know parents, you know, want the best for their kids. Man, if I could just understand, this is a fleeting game that provides incredible memories, life lessons, experiences,
Mm-hmm.
but it's not as valuable as playing around the 5 crowns at the kitchen table,
Mhm.
talking trash to each other and having
Yeah.
fun with it, you know, and
Yeah.
the whole family pounding 3 tubs of ice cream while we're doing it, you know, on a
Yeah.
power outage night like we had the other night. It's just like
Yep.
put it all in balance.
Mm-hmm.
What about when people ask you, you mentioned something a while ago, you said, you know, you said 2 things that I want to come back to, and then we'll go to like our wrap up points. But you said in 7th grade you wrestled with that, you know,
Mm-hmm.
kind of want to create my own identity, so I'm just not a Snowbird Kid, and you worked through that. Then you got to high school and you were accustomed to having sort of all eyes on you. What you know, how hard has it been growing up as mine and Little's daughter, as a Snowbird Kid? Like, has it been really hard, or do you think, like, would you say it's just hard and you just got to buckle up for it, or is it more like it's not that hard, people just make it hard, or you make it harder than it has to be? Like,
Mm-hmm.
what are your thoughts on growing up when people say to you, hey, what's it like being a Snowbird Kid? Is it hard? What's it like being Brody and Little's daughter? Is it hard? Like, you can speak
Yeah.
freely, you know that,
Yeah.
but
I honestly don't think it was that hard. Like, for me, I don't know. I feel like it was just really fun. And, like, I think at times, like, I remember, like JB was saying earlier, there's so many things that I'll just mention that I feel like is so normal. And they'll be like, Lailee, that's not, like, normal kids didn't do that. Like, in high school, I remember I had, like, a group of little friends, you know, and they would give me so much crap because, like, they would say something, oh, like, I can't imagine doing this, or, oh, did y'all see this? And I would always have, like, a story of, like, oh, well, my family did this, or, oh, well, I went to whatever. And I was never, like, trying to be like, oh, you know.
You just wanted
like,
to share your story.
I was just like, oh, that made me think of this. And so, like, there was, like, I think at times I was like, dang, like, I never want to make, you know, them feel like I'm trying to brag and stuff, but also, like, finding the balance of that is, like, your life. And so, you know, you can share that with people, and, like, finding friends who see you for more than just, like, Brody's daughter or, you know, a good soccer player or something. Like, I think the Lord has just grown up at Snowbird. I found every single one of my close friends here. And so I think He has gifted me with, like, such good friends that genuinely, like, I think strive for, like, yes, that's a part of me, and, like, we can do fun things because of it, and, like, you know, it's it can be a different friendship just because I have grown up here and like, but also like we're just friends and like it's not all about Snowbird or, you know, but I do think of that at school because that was kind of a time when I was like I never want to seem, you know, prideful in that way. And like I know they didn't mean it, but they would just nag at me about it and stuff, and I would just laugh. But
it's funny because people tend to live more in the controlled parameters.
Yeah.
And I also, one thing that we tried to do with y'all, and I wonder if you now reflect back and you realize this, but we tried to do very spontaneous things like the jumping off the bridge.
Mm-hmm.
I remember a couple times that wasn't planned. Or remember when you traveled with me, I flew somewhere to speak. I used to take you with me. I loved it. That's some of my favorite memories is, I mean, you and I logged a lot of miles together, planes, trains, and automobiles kind of thing. And we had flown back into Atlanta. We're coming up into the city.
Yeah.
And I'm like, look at that massive building, that huge tower with the round thing. You know what I'm talking about? And what's it called?
The Westin.
Yeah. Like, let's go up there. So you remember that?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
We're driving home from the airport and we're like, and finding our way to I don't even know where we parked or.
I don't know. But yeah, we went up there and it was crazy.
And we had nachos.
Yep.
Because it was expensive.
Yeah. Yeah.
And nachos and shared a Sprite, I think.
Yep.
And you were probably 14, walked around looking out over the city.
Yep.
But that's a simple little thing. And you think, that's not a big deal.
Yeah.
But people don't do stuff like just stop. Pull off the road. You don't have to get home so fast.
Yeah.
I would say to dads, you're with your daughter. First off, you should be with her going somewhere, just the two of you. You should be doing that. And then figure out something along the way and do it. You know, do it. Yeah, I mean, I remember 2 years ago we rented those Polaris slingshots. Okay, I'm gonna tell on us because we rented these. They're like tri-wheeled, 2 wheels in the front, 1 in the back. I rented 2 of them, and they were 5 speeds. And Lailee was just learning to drive a straight shift. She was just getting ready to get her license. So it's been the year you got your license, and she could drive a stick shift. Okay, I make all my kids learn on a stick shift. And she's learning, she's getting the hang of it. But this thing was just geared different. And the gears were real tight because it's like a sports car. So I rent 2 of these. And me and you, Mama and Tucker, we drive to Klingman's Dome. So from here, you get Klingman. We rented these over towards Cherokee, then we drove to Klingman's Dome. And drove them up, parked, walked up to Klingman's Dome to the tower. Awesome. We're coming back down. And I was like, I tossed Lailee the keys. So it was 16-year-old Lailee. I'm like, you're driving us back. So we're at the highest point in the Smoky Mountain National Park. And Lailee's now behind the wheel of the slingshot. And we're coming off. And I remember we were getting, and I was showing you how to downshift. Yeah. And she went from 5th. Instead of hitting 3rd, she said, whoop, boom, and hit 1st gear. And we're like, bam! I mean, we almost smashed our faces, and we're like, wow! Like we almost blew the transmission in those things, you know.
It was bad.
But
I think I have a video, or you were taking the video. I think
maybe I was.
And it was like it made that awful sound,
grinding them.
Yeah.
But I think that day cost like $600, and I'm like, I remember thinking, that's a lot of money we rented them for like 2 hours. 3 hours. I'd spend that money like that again. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like, I'll never forget that day, and hopefully you won't.
Yeah. Yeah, that was so fun.
Creating those memories. I think that's important.
Yeah. And I don't know, like, I just think about how Mama is, like, just car rides or, like, I remember, I remember one time, like, we ran out of gas and we were sitting on the side of the road and, she just figure out fun games to play out of nothing. So, like, so many small things like that, I think, have impacted just the way, like, our brains are now of, like, just make it fun. Like, and she always says, if you're bored, you're boring. And so it's
if
like,
you're bored,
just
you're boring.
Yeah, like, just come up with something. I mean, she would like pick, let's try to hit that tree with a rock, or let's all go around and say whatever. So, but yeah.
Yeah. So JB asked the question, why did you decide you didn't want to go play at the next level? You only want to play high school sports and then move on. And then, how did you stay grounded with a lot of high school sports success?
Yeah. I think with soccer, I love soccer so much, and I played it growing up until senior year and everything, and it was like my number one sport. I think going into, because you got to decide freshman, sophomore year, all right, am I going to do this or not? And so there was times in middle school I was like, yes, I definitely want to play 100%. And, like, that's when we started doing stuff, whatever. But then I think, honestly, a big part of it that I'm very thankful for was, like, just seeing Tuck and the process of getting there. And, like, I saw him, obviously, his junior, senior year. But, like, he was pretty much out of the house junior year, and, like, that was his life, like, everything. And I think I have a passion for, like, stuff like camp and working with kids and working, like, in that kind of world. And so I think, like, I was a lot more drawn to, like, being around camp and, like, hanging out with, the staff and the kids and even, like, the little staff kids. And so, like, I think I was torn of, like, man, like, I'm watching this happen, and it is, like, his life, which is what he wants to do and what the Lord's called him to. So that's amazing and so inspiring for so many people. But I just don't know if that's what I want to do. And, like, so I think I was, like, making my mind up of, I love soccer and I want to finish strong, and I don't just want to, like, just have fun and it be like a casual thing. Like, I want to work hard. I want to, pursue it the same way I have been, but take the pressure off of, if I don't score a goal in a game, like, that's okay. Like, there's not going to be, whatever repercussions of maybe not playing in the next level. So, like, honestly, I'm glad that I decided soon, like freshman, sophomore year, because, it was so fun. Like, our team dynamic was so fun. Like, we just worked hard, and we were pretty successful. And, like, but it was just do what you can now and have fun and work hard and finish strong. And, like, I remember, like, my last game of my senior year, it was like I felt so good about it. And, the Lord really blessed me with the fun last season, and I was so content. And now, like, this past year, I did, like, intramurals and stuff, but I'm so thankful that it's not everything, because, it's a, full-time job and more. And so, I don't know, I think just through prayer, but honestly not tons of prayer. Like, I think I prayed about it the amount that I needed to until I got clarity, but then also just trusting my desires of not forcing it, and not, like, I had to put the thought totally completely out of my mind of, oh, this is the cool thing to do. Like, I want to be a college athlete. I want to whatever. Like, I just had to put that to rest, because that's not going to get you through all 4 years. Like, you're going to burn out like that if that's the reason you're doing it. So, yeah. But I think that was a process of not deciding.
Yeah, and I remember, I think one thing that you were able to achieve that was different from the path Tuck took or Katie Cousins was, at practice, you gave 100%. On game day, you gave 100%. And then you went home and did other things, plugged in at camp.
Yeah.
And so I think you can give 100%, but not and do other things.
Yeah.
And so yeah, I appreciate it. One thing I always just loved and appreciated was when you were there, you were all in. But you just said it, and then you left it on the field. And practice will be there tomorrow when I get back.
Yeah.
And that's okay. That's an option for people. What about the other question was, how'd you stay grounded? Yeah.
I think it's so hard for so many people, because, like, I feel like, I don't know if this statement's true, but I feel like the majority of teenagers, like, really start taking their faith serious, like, junior, senior year. And it's so hard because you've set this pattern and you've set this like expectation of, oh, I do enjoy these things. I do take part in these things like partying, all that stuff, whatever. But I think going into high school, like I had a pretty good foundation. And so with sports, I mean, it was hard for sure at times, just like so much negativity and so much just typical high school stuff, but like being consistent. And honestly, it did not take long for people to just know. I don't even ask Lailee that because she's probably gonna say no, or I don't, or even like getting to the point of like them being protective. Like I think my whole first semester, I think the summer before freshman year, my whole first semester of freshman year, like setting that foundation was so crucial because it made the rest of my high school career so much easier. Because like, I mean, I would still like I had close relationships with all of my teammates pretty much. And like we would have, team sleepovers, team whatever, go out to eat before games, after, all that stuff. Like I loved doing all of that. But there were so many small moments that built up like to big things of like they just knew that, oh yeah, if I gossip to Lailee about this, she's probably not gonna like make me feel shameful about it, but just not respond, and then it's pointless. So like I think just there's so many little moments at the beginning if you're intentional about like standing strong and staying grounded of like I might like sit here and while they play this foul rap song, like, okay, but I'm not gonna sing every word. And like just small things like that where I think they noticed. And by the first semester of my freshman year, it was like honestly so much easier because they just expected that of me. And it was like weird if I didn't act like that, And then there were times where like they'd be like, don't say that to Lailee, or don't ask her that, or let's not, and it almost came like a protective thing for them.
I think a good phrase is establish yourself.
Yeah.
And your freshman year is the time to do it. Establish yourself.
Yes.
If you'll do the hard work of doing that, if we've got young people listening, and maybe you're going into your junior year and you haven't established yourself, start school, commit this first semester to establish yourself.
Yeah.
And then it'll just get easy. It just will.
Yeah, and like if you are in your junior year and you haven't established yourself, like honestly, the Lord could use that a whole lot more because people can see the change, and like you don't have to make them feel shameful. Like you can keep your same friends, but create that distance of like, I'm not going to take part in those things. And that could lead to so much good conversation of like, why are you doing that? Or why are you changing in those ways?
Well, and I appreciate what you said about, and I watched you live this out. You weren't condescending. You weren't holier than thou. You were just a genuine, sincere person. And if they're listening to that music, you didn't tell them to stop. That takes some inner fortitude to not let that music affect you. But at the same time, if you're around people that don't have a relationship with the Lord, and then you try to impose Christian principles on it, like it's not going to be a good reaction. And so there are times to speak up, and there are times to just quietly live out your faith. And so you're there, they're listening to it, and pretty soon they start to realize there's something different here. And then being confident of who you are in Christ. I remember we talked about this. We've relived this, replayed it a lot. Your freshman year, early in the basketball season, y'all were having a sleepover at one of the girls' houses, and you called me. I was here at North Campus. It was winter SWO. It was between Christmas and New Year. We were at a winter SWO. You called me it's 11 o'clock at night, and I take the call, step away, I take the call, and you say, I'm in the bathroom at this girl's house. We're going around, and you might can give some clarity to this. Yeah. There's one of those deals where everybody's going around sharing, talking, and you said, I'm getting ready to share the gospel with this entire team. You're like the freshman on the team. There are 12th graders. There are 18-year-old girls on this team, and you're 15. I'm getting ready to share the gospel. Just pray for me.
Mm-hmm.
And I prayed with you, and then you went out. And
Yeah.
what was that scenario, and how did that play out?
Yeah, I can't remember exactly what we were talking about, but like I said, that group of girls was very unique, and like it wasn't like I had to fight for opportunities to share the gospel and share the truth. Like the Lord really worked it out to where there was pretty clear times where I was like, okay, yes, the Lord wants me to share this. I can't remember exactly what we were talking about, but like they liked having deep conversation. And so like I think they were just talking about like general stuff, like how the world is here, like stuff like that, you know. And I remember there's always like just a time before where I was really hesitant, and obviously the enemy was trying to make me fearful and stuff. But like I remember just sharing the gospel, and that was kind of it. And then they were all like listening, and then the conversation kind of got into things like abortion or like pretty heavy topics that you could talk about for hours. And like I kind of also, the Lord gave me in those moments the wisdom of like, it's okay, like you don't have to speak on everything, because I mean I was like 14, 15, so like I don't think I was very equipped to debate abortion in those moments, and I don't know if I had the confidence. And I think the Lord gave me the discernment of like, okay, you shared the gospel, you know, you had the confidence and you took that step, so it's okay if you don't have the knowledge and the wisdom to, you know, go into these deeper things. And like also that's not the problem with their hearts, like knowing what abortion is, you know, talking about that is probably not gonna like maybe make them truly question like what their lives are, you know, what they're pursuing and stuff. So like there was a lot of times like that where it was good conversation, but it was never like, it was always a pretty clear opportunity. Like I don't feel like I ever had to really force it.
And then just being faithful when the opportunity did come.
Yeah.
Just being faithful.
Yeah.
Chris, what were you going to say? Yeah, great talking point.
Yeah.
The question was, when me and your mama, back in the fall, we did a pretty big series, a long sit-down conversation talking about just our life. And we talked about how when you were growing up, so first of all, let me ask you a question. How many times have you been to Disney World or Orlando?
None.
Zero.
Zero.
Now, I'm not saying it's wrong to do that.
Yeah.
I'm not saying, but we just didn't do it.
Yeah.
How many trips have you taken from the time that you can remember until you graduated from high school? Do you have an idea how many out of the country trips you took and how many weeks or months total you probably spent in another country?
Yeah, I think trips from like 2 to 13, we would go to Honduras every year, and then we lived in Africa for those 4 months. So
you think all of that gave you a better experience than a Disney World vacation?
Yes, I do.
Yeah, and I'm not being
100%.
facetious, but
yeah,
like,
yeah. I think even just like a side note, even the vacations we did take, it was like not to Disney World where it's like there's entertainment everywhere you look. It's like we just go to the lake and we just chill and we just make things to do. We, you know, like, I don't know, we would for hours throw the football off the dock and catch it like into the water, stuff like that. Like even the vacations we did take, it was like truly restful and like just let your mind think. And as a kid, like really cultivated like creativity and just like entertaining yourself.
Just our family.
Yeah. And then like all those trips, I mean, that's like genuinely priceless. I don't even know how to describe like the impacts and
Every
just
December.
the perspective, of those trips on my life. Like I think obviously it always just makes you super grateful for what you do have in the life that the Lord has blessed you with. But it also just like really helped with being relational and like not being fearful of like talking to people and like going into situations that I don't know how this is going to go, but like, it's going to be great and it'll be fine. Like, just like little things like that, where it's like, you know, when we were going to Africa, like, we were just going. Like, there wasn't steps to walk out. There wasn't a plan, like a direct plan. So many of those things where it's like, I feel like now I can really see like the Lord has used that to just give me like a perspective of, I don't need to know exactly how this is going to go, or this conversation or this experience. Like, it's going to be good and I'm going to grow from it. So like, that's something to be excited for, you know? But I don't know. There's so many things.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up, because that was going to Africa was a crazy deal, and I've never told that story on here or really anywhere. But I mean, I had located a lawyer. We were flying out on a Wednesday out of Dulles Airport in D.C. Tuesday or Wednesday. We had a court date the following Monday at a court in Kampala, Uganda. We were going to get in country. We didn't have anywhere to stay. Mm-hmm. I found a little guest house where we could rent a room. I emailed the guy. He said, "Oh yeah, give me your flight information. We'll have our driver, the guy that kind of is our go-to taxi guy, pick you up at the airport." I don't know. I want to see if you remember this. So I've got directions to when we get to Kampala, and they've changed that airport now. You've seen it. It's very nice now.
Yeah.
In 2014, it was ghetto, third world. Mm-hmm. It's really nice now. I was shocked last time I went. I was like, whoa, this is way different. But at that time, when you got off the plane, you walked outside into the terminal, went through the airport, went through customs, checked in, and then you walked straight to luggage and outside, and you're in Africa. Yeah. And I'd emailed this guy, "Hey, I need a place to stay. I got a family of 5, and we're going to be bringing 2 more children into our family. I need a place to stay. Can I rent a room from you? 1 room." You remember that? We all lived in 1 room. Yeah. We were there 4 months. He said, "Yep." He said, I said, "I need a ride from the airport." Our flight landed at 11 o'clock at night. Get through customs. I said, "We'll get through customs, and I need a driver. We're staying an hour from the airport." The driver was this dude named Muhammad, and he said he's larger than most Ugandans, and he'll be in a red shirt. He'll be waiting for you outside of the airport. So it's me, your mama. You were what, 7 or 8?
7, I think.
7 years old at that point. And then Tuck would have been then 10, and Kilby would have been 12 or something like that.
Yeah.
Or no, let's see. It was early 14, so nobody had birthdays yet that year. So y'all would have been 13, 11, and 8. That was your ages. So we walk out of the airport at 12:30, midnight 30. Walk outside. There's 100 cabbies trying to get us to come get in their car. I'm like, "No, we waiting on my man Muhammad." And we sat down with all of our luggage for an indefinite amount of time. We didn't know how long we were going to have to stay. Sat down on the curb in a third world country. Said, "We'll wait here for Muhammad." We had been traveling for 40 hours at that point. Yeah. And an hour later, Muhammad walked up. I was kind of like, I don't know what to do. And back then, phones wouldn't work like that.
Yep.
He walks up. You didn't see this, but Muhammad said he had a guy with him. And I said, "Are you Muhammad?" And he said, "Yeah." I said, "Where are you?" He said, "I'm taking you to," and he said the name of the place. I was like, okay, I think it's a real guy. But he had a guy with him. And I'm like, "Who's this?" And he said, "This is my friend. He's a former policeman, or he's a policeman. He's trustworthy." So I sat behind him in the car. You didn't see this. I took my belt off. I leaned up and whispered in his ear, and I said, "I will die for my family, and I will also kill you for my family. Drive me straight to this house, and if you do anything funny, I'm putting my belt around your neck, and I'm going to kill you." I literally said that in his dude's ear.
Oh my gosh!
Because I was freaked out, man. Now I think I wouldn't be scared to go there, but I don't know. I mean, I had emailed a guy I didn't know, and I'm like, "All right, kids, we're going on an adventure." And some people say, "Man, it was reckless the way we did things." But we're sitting in a van at 1 a.m. in a third world country. And I just took my belt off, and I sat behind the driver, and I said, "I'd die for my family. I'll kill for my family. You drive me straight to Herb and Ellen's house, If you don't, I'm gonna put my belt. So y'all didn't know that, but that's an experience like sitting on the side. Can you even remember getting there?
I can remember getting there. I don't really remember like the drive and stuff, but like even thinking about so many of those situations where like y'all never like, complained. Like I think just observing so many parents and like my friends in high school and stuff, like that was such a direct effect on them, like just complaining and like making a big deal about stuff. Like, I mean, there's never really a time where I can remember y'all like complaining about stuff, like sitting on that curb or whatever. And so to us, it was just like, it's great. It's like, just
adventure.
chilling.
Yeah.
So like, I think that was also a really big thing too.
What about, Chris mentioned, instead of going on those vacations, because what we would do, our split was in the spring, on y'all spring break, we would we'd stay in a lake house in the middle of nowhere. We go south, it'd be warm, it'd be March or April, usually April.
Yeah.
And it would be warm, and we would buy groceries, and we'd spend 7 to 9 days just right there.
Yeah.
Then every December, we would travel until you got until you're playing high school ball. We would travel to Honduras and spend a week at an orphanage.
Yeah. Yeah.
You feel like you missed out not going to Disney World?
No, I like literally the anticipation of going to Honduras. Like I can remember, I mean, that was like the most excited because it was so cool because I got to build those relationships, like, growing up with those kids, kind of like, obviously didn't grow up with them, but every year I would go, it's the same girls I would hang out with. And so like, just y'all making it exciting, like, just, I don't know, it was never a thought of my mind of like, oh, I would rather be doing, Disney World or something. It was, I loved it.
Yeah. And I don't want to just sit here and hound on that, but I just wanted our listeners to hear, and maybe it'll challenge parents to, hey, instead of spending the money to go on a cruise next year, take that money and look at an orphanage in Central America. It's not hard to get there, or even in Africa or India, and just go there and say, as a family, we're going to do the work of getting passports, getting visas. You can do it. It's not that hard. It just takes work and effort, but it's not that big of a deal. And to take your family and go, instead of going on a self-serving vacation, go on an others-serving vacation. And what you'll find is it fills your tank much more than going on a cruise or going to the beach or renting a house, in a tourist area. I mean, I hate so much for close family members that I know that I love, and they listen to this podcast, that have never done anything like that. Every year they go to the beach and they rent a house and they love, they watch movies and they've got their little routine they go through. And I'm not criticizing that. I'm just like, if one time, instead of doing that, you would take your family, you would go spend 7, 8, 9 days at an orphanage, it would return so much of an investment in your spirit,
and like you
your
can
heart.
make that so much fun. It's not like the whole time we were at the orphanage, we were digging trenches and, like we were doing fun stuff with the kids, but serving them and being just present with them.
You played so much soccer.
Yeah, so much soccer. They yanked my hair out, braiding it every day, like just stuff like that.
Okay, well, I'm really grateful you come on. I'd like to do it again sometime, and maybe folks could, y'all email like conversation you'd like for us to have or questions you'd like to ask Lailee, and I'll let her answer those, and I'll just get out of the way. We'll be totally transparent. But anyway, thanks for coming on and taking the time. It worked out because your students, it's Friday. Yeah. We're recording this on a Friday. Your students had to leave camp early. They left this morning. So worked out great. I've been wanting to do it for a while. Yeah. And thanks.
Yes, it's fun.
Thanks for listening to No Sanity Required. Please take a moment to subscribe and leave a rating. It really helps. Visit us at swoutfitters.com to see all of our programming and resources. And we'll see you next week on No Sanity Required.